Welcome to the Good American Economy series with Ravi Batra and Dick Alexander.
Hello, I'm Dick Alexander. I'm founder-owner of an enterprise software business specializing in manufacturing and job shops. As a small business owner, it's important to me that the economy does well under the next president. With me is Dr. Ravi Batra, a professor of economics at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. He'll bring insight into why our economy does better under different economic policies. Dr. Batra will now discuss debt and deficit, President Clinton, George W. Bush, and John McCain.
Thank you, Dick, for inviting me to speak here. Hello, friends. It's now well known that the federal deficit and debt have been getting out of hand over the past 30 years. It all started under President Reagan when he decided to slash the income tax rate drastically, mostly for the wealthy, while raising the tax rates on the middle class. The top bracket tax rate fell from 70% in 1980 to just 28% by the end of Reagan's second term in 1988. Thus, the self-employed small businesses saw their tax rate jump by 66%. Yes, indeed, 66%. That's why you see Reagan transferred the tax burden from the wealthy to the middle class, because most small business persons belong to the middle income group. Incidentally, John McCain, the current Republican candidate, voted for the vast rise in the self-employment tax in 1983. This was his first major vote, and he used it to raise the middle class tax by as much as 66%. I repeat this figure because I don't understand how McCain is still claiming that he is a friend of small business people. What did Reagan's policy of tax transformation? This is a policy of tax transformation. So what did this policy do to the federal budget deficit and debt? Of course, they both soared. Reagan and his advisors had foreseen a sharp fall in the deficit, but Reagan's vice president, George H.W. Bush, who had earlier called such policy voodoo economics, knew better. His warnings came true. As the deficit soared, GDP growth fell below the historical norm, and poverty began to rise. Then came Bill Clinton in 1993, and he raised the income tax rates, mostly on high incomes, to slash the deficit, which then fell sharply, while GDP growth went up. In fact, the deficit turned into a surplus in 1999. So poverty figures began to fall under Bill Clinton. The moral of the story is that when the income tax rate fell, the deficit and poverty rose. And when it went up, the deficit and poverty fell. The current president, George W. Bush, repeated Reagan's folly and cut the income tax rates for the wealthy again. According to most studies, such as those done by the Wall Street Journal in 2004 or by the Congressional Budget Office, tax rates fell sharply for the top 1% taxpayers. So the results are the same. While both the federal deficit and debt have soared, poverty is back to where it was under Bush Sr. Please take a look at Table 1. This table describes poverty rates under various presidents from 1980 to all the way to 2008. So what do we see? We see that the number of people living below the poverty line went up by 3 million under Reagan from 1980 to 1988. And then it rose another 6 million by 1992 under Bush Sr. See what President Clinton did? He actually slashed the poverty figures by 6 million. And now George W. Bush has brought them up again by 5 million. So to me, it's more than a coincidence that poverty rises whenever Republicans take over, and it falls under Democrats. So the record is quite clear. Now, the federal debt and deficit are out of control. And here, figure 1 shows how it all started. How the deficit jumped from Carter to Reagan, then fell under Bill Clinton and is now skyrocketing. Figure 2 reveals how our debt fell under every president from Truman to Carter. Yes, from President Truman to President Carter, it fell. And then started to rise under Reagan, fell again under Bill Clinton, and is now skyrocketing. Finally, figure 3 displays where our federal debt stands from 1940 all the way till today. It started out small, but has grown tall, taller, and the tallest at close to $10 trillion today. The Bush borrow and spend policies must be reversed before the economy collapses. I hope John McCain will reconsider his support for the Bush tax cuts, for the very, very costly Bush tax cuts. So Dick, this is all I have to say.
Thank you, Ravi, for visiting today, and we hope you will come back very soon.
You've been watching an installment of the Good American Economy series. For more about this episode and to see how your vote in the presidential election is an important one, visit our website at www.goodamericaneconomy.com. There you'll find additional videos and documents that expand upon today's topic and much more. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on the Good American Economy.